Ezra, welcome.
Thanks very much. It's good to be here, but I've got bad news, Glenn.
Yeah. What?
Canada just introduced the most draconian anti-free speech censorship bill in our history and in the history of any democratic country. I've never seen anything like it.
Okay, hang on, Ezra. Ezra Levant.
Okay, I'll cork it. I can't wait.
I know. Ezra Levant is the host of the Ezra Levant Show. He started Rebel News, which is like The Blaze, has the same kind of mission as The Blaze. Ezra, we just had one of our reporters jailed, picked up by the FBI.
Oh my God.
He was the one that is leading the investigation on January 6th. He was arrested this morning about an hour ago, and we're in real trouble as a nation. We're in real trouble, and you guys are following. Actually, you're leading, I think, because you guys have just introduced a bill yesterday that is bone-chilling.
Well, what you've just reported to me about the arrest of your reporter is terrifying, and I know that you will resist it at all costs. You absolutely must. You cannot allow the arrests of journalists for criticizing the regime to be normalized. That is absolute priority one. So
as you know, Ezra, that is the mainstream media is not going to cover this. They're not going to cover it, and it's reprehensible.
If he was on the other side of the political aisle, he would be winning a Pulitzer.
Yeah.
There would be national press conferences for him. You would see Amnesty International talking about it. You might even see the United Nations talking about it. But if he is conservative-oriented or a critic of the regime, it'll be crickets. Let me tell you what's going on in Canada, because, as I always say, what happens in Canada today may happen in the U.S. 5 years from now. It's like we're a bad time machine to see your future. This week, Justin Trudeau introduced a new bill called Bill C-63. It's got a lot of things in it that are atrocious. He's created a new hate crime bill, life in prison, new hate crime law. There's nothing that gets you life in prison in Canada, not even murder, but hate speech now does. He's created a pre-crime for hate. If you have, quote, fear of hate, that's the title of the section of the law, you can get a judge to issue a kind of restraining order against your enemy before he does anything, before he says anything. And that restraining order can include house arrest, giving up any lawful firearms, limiting who he can talk to directly or indirectly, limiting the places he can go, and requiring him to take urine and blood tests. Just because you are, quote, afraid he might in the future say some hate speech. He doesn't have to have done anything in the past. This is a pre-crime, like in that science fiction movie, Minority Report. That's in this bill. Let me tell you other things in this bill. Donald Trump and his travails with the U.S. legal system, they're covered a lot by the Canadian media, and Justin Trudeau's obsessed with Donald Trump. So he's been watching what Democrats have done, and he's learned from it. Trump is being prosecuted by high-profile prosecutors. Trudeau has one-upped that. Trudeau has now said that anyone in Canada, even non-citizens, can file hate speech complaints against anyone. And if they're successful, they get $20,000 from the target, and the target has to pay a fine of up to $50,000. So let me just say this more clearly. If there's anyone on social media, because this is a social media law Trudeau's introduced, if there's anyone who has a YouTube video, a tweet, a Facebook comment that you think creates hate, you can go to the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal and complain about it. You don't have to hire a lawyer. You don't have to spend any money. The government will have the hearing. And if your complaint is upheld, you get $20,000 from the victim. So instead of having maybe 20...
Wait. Who gets the 30, the remaining 30?
20 goes to the complainant, and an additional 50 goes to the government. So you're on the hook for $70,000 a pop. So let's take someone like Jordan Peterson. Every day he's saying something controversial on YouTube, on Twitter. Oh, and by the way, This applies to all of your historical work that's online. So as long as it's still online and you control it,
oh my gosh,
they can go back through your history, 5 years, 10 years, and why wouldn't they complain about literally every tweet you make, literally every YouTube video? There's no cost, there's no downside, and even if only 5% of your complaints get through to the target, you're smacking them with 20 grand for yourself and a 50 grand fine. This will create a huge industry. So Trudeau saw what they were doing to Trump and said, I can do one better. I'm not going to have a few sniper shots. I'm going to have a shotgun blast. I'm going to have hundreds of complaints swarming my enemies, and I don't even have to do it. I will mobilize a woke army. But there's one more thing, and people can't believe it when I tell it to them, but it's right there in the law in black and white. You can make a complaint in secret, and the target of your complaint never gets to know your identity. You can give evidence in secret. The complaint can be made in secret. So you could have a company, a political party, a busybody who's literally filing 100 a day, and you'll never know it. And let me just be clear about one thing. You don't have to be a victim. You don't have to have any standing. You don't have to be mentioned at all. You can just do this as a hobby, as an obsession, as a job, as a political vengeance. Maybe you're a disgruntled ex-employee. This is all in Bill C-63, and you take it all together, this is the most draconian anti-free speech bill anywhere in the world, other than, I suppose, Iran and China, who just do this stuff naturally.
And kill you. So what does that mean to people like you, Ezra? Because you're going to be attacked. Rebel News is going to be attacked. You're out.
Well, let me go to first principles for 1 second. Let me tell you what they're doing at the basic principle level here. What is a hate crime? What's hate, Glenn? It's a human emotion. If you never feel any hate in your life, you don't have a fully formed personality. The challenge in life is to take these bad emotions and transform them into positive work, into reforming the world, into fixing a problem. Hate comes from an underlying grievance. So to pass a law to say we're going to ban hatred, that's impossible. If it were possible, we'd have passed the Love Each Other Act a long time ago and we'd be in heaven. So to criminalize a human emotion, it's insane. And that is what the law actually governs. The law, and I know because I was charged under a precursor to this law about 15 years ago when I published the Danish cartoons of Mohammed. I was charged with publishing something, quote, likely to expose a person to hatred or contempt, unquote. So it's a pre-crime, it's a future crime, and it's not to do any actual damage, it's just to hurt feelings. And that's the thing is, it's so subjective, we're all guilty in advance. But as the Soviet secret police chief Lavrentiy Beria said, show me the man, I'll find you the crime. We're all guilty of having hate in our hearts. So it's just whoever they choose to prosecute who'll get dinged.
So tell me this won't pass in Parliament.
Well, the reason it was introduced this week is because last week, Justin Trudeau signed a new coalition agreement with a hard left-wing socialist party. Justin Trudeau does not have a majority of seats in our House. So he signed a coalition deal with an even worse party. And I fear this will be passed into law. And I fear, it'll take some time. They're setting up 3 new censorship agencies, not 1, but 3. There will be 3 new censorship bureaucracies. And I think it's going to take them a number of months to get it going. I think this will probably be operational in 2025. And then it's going to be the final battle, Glenn, because, this will bankrupt any critic of the regime. And then there's those pre-crime restraining orders. And then there's the actual criminal prosecution. They've created a standalone hate crime law for life in prison. Not even murder gets you that in Canada.
So if this passes, you've become a Stasi state, East Germany.
Yeah, the secret informants, the secret prosecutions, the secret witnesses, the subjective political nature of the crime. the 3 different agencies. And here, they have special rules for Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. They say if they get a complaint, a hate complaint, they must take it down within 24 hours or be subject to enormous fines. And so there's no way you can adjudicate if something is right or wrong or fair or not in 24 hours. And the fines are so enormous, basically a complaint will automatically get things taken down. Again, I'm going to tell you something now, and you're probably not going to believe me, but I swear it's in the text of the law. There are fines in there that can tag global social media companies 8% of their global revenue. So Justin Trudeau, sitting up here in Canada, says to Facebook, if you break my law, I will fine you 8% of your entire worldwide revenue. That's a $10 billion fine. Now, I think Facebook, YouTube, Google, et cetera, I think they're probably going to push back on this, or maybe they'll just leave Canada, and Trudeau's going to be fine with that. Facebook has already left Canadian news because Trudeau said to them, you have to pay $100 million to our list of approved journalists for the pleasure of linking to them. And Facebook said, that makes no sense. We're getting out of the Canadian news business. You cannot post a Canadian news story on Facebook. It blocks it. Trudeau's fine with that because that hurts the independent guys like us. You cannot read Rebel News on Facebook. We're blocked, as are every other Canadian news source. We are becoming like China in that there's this great firewall of Canada going up. Trudeau would be happy shutting down any independent sources of news. Soon there will only be 2 kinds of journalists left in Canada: government journalists and banned journalists, Glenn.